Welcome to The Morning After. It's episode 29 from Engadget. I'm Matt Smith, bringing you all the biggest, most interesting tech news from the week, including big tech jealousy. Who'd have thought? A terrible rabbit. And is TikTok being sneaky? Maybe. Let's get into it. Now, weirdly, during an antitrust case between the Department of Justice and Google, it was emails from Microsoft, with most of the good stuff redacted, that offered more of a clue as to why Microsoft went in so heavily with AI startup OpenAI. Apparently, Microsoft execs were alarmed and even envious of Google's AI lead, even pointing to Gmail's autocomplete features, which they called scary good. Microsoft was apparently struggling to match existing Google AI models, while its rival inched further ahead with bigger AI machine learning tricks. Scott said that Microsoft had very smart people on its own machine learning teams, but that their ambitions had been curbed, and that Microsoft was multiple years behind the competition. In this email thread, Microsoft boss Satya Nadella responded that the email had highlighted why he wanted the company to do this. This being a $1 billion investment in OpenAI. It's since invested a further $13 billion, and yeah, just a reminder, this was all from an antitrust case against Google, nothing really to do with Microsoft. The Rabbit R1, a pocket-sized AI virtual assistant that was the darling of CES 2024, runs Android under the hood. We all knew that, but now someone has teased out the R1 APK, installed it on an Android phone, and made it work, if not totally. If that's the case, then what's the point in a standalone $200 gadget? Now, in a statement sent to Android Authority, which was the first publication to report on this, the Rabbit CEO said that the R1 is not an Android app. He added that the R1 ran on a very bespoke Android open source project build and lower level firmware modifications, meaning in total that a local bootleg APK wouldn't be able to access a lot of the R1 features, which seems to be the case with a lack of any ability to integrate with Spotify. Now, if you want to know our thoughts on the R1, our review is underway. Why not check out the Engadget podcast with the Engadget editors not brave enough to do a YouTube? How's that for cross-platform synergy?
Adequate.
Next up, Instagram is overhauling its recommendation algorithm for Reels. It will start squashing aggregator accounts that are just regurgitating other users' work. The app's changes around original content could be pretty immediate as well. Instagram says it will actively replace reposted Reels with the original clip in its suggestions page when it detects that two pieces are otherwise identical, which is a start. Aggregator accounts that repeatedly publish posts from others will apparently be penalized even more harshly. Good. LinkedIn, the career-centric social network that is no fun, is getting into gaming, but in the kind of earnest, feels like homework kind of games that your mum would let you play when you were a kid. Now, LinkedIn describes them as thinking-oriented games, though the format will likely look familiar to anyone who already uses the New York Times Games app. Now, you can only play each game once a day, but you'll be able to share your scores and your results with your LinkedIn friends. And maybe, just maybe, you strike up a conversation on how you can help them with targeted software as a service projects in Canada, the Philippines, or South Africa. Fun. Now, TikTok may be behaving a little cheeky again. It has reportedly given some iOS users the option to buy its in-app coins currency on TikTok.com to avoid in-app service fees, namely Apple's 30% commission. Doing so, however, would violate Apple's App Store rules, which you probably have heard of because I seem to talk about it every other week. But it's not available to all users, which is probably why it slid under the radar until now. The option only seems to appear for users who have previously bought large numbers of the coin, the TikTok whales, if you will. If you haven't heard of the term whale, it's a mobile marketing term that's often used to describe mobile games users who are responsible for an outsized proportion of a mobile game's revenue through in-app payments. In short, it's the TikTok big spenders. Now, the funny thing is, this isn't Fortnite. Apple isn't gonna suddenly ban something as huge as TikTok. That's what the American government's for. And that was your morning after. I am still Matt Smith. Thanks once again for watching, and make sure to check out the Engadget podcast like I mentioned earlier. They do actually do a YouTube. I was just being quite naturally facetious. And make sure to check out all the full tech news stories in their entirety over at Engadget.com. And hopefully, I'll see you next week.